11 decapitations in 1 week. Don't you just hate someone who only takes head and never gives it?
You're bad, Matilda. Real bad.
Autopsy attended by Lieutenant Vincent DaCosta, Chicago homicide. I heard your ex got custody of the dog.
The Relic is a 1997 monster horror film directed by Peter Hyams, starring Penelope Ann Miller, Tom Sizemore, Linda Hunt, and James Whitmore. Let's take a quick look.
According to museum security, you were the last one to leave last night. Did you see or hear anything strange?
Well, I thought I heard something as I was leaving, but it could have been anything.
Sweeping teams of two. Nobody goes in alone. This place is not going to open until every room is clear. Now go.
Come out, wherever you are.
Any idea about a weapon?
Something big.
And welcome back to the Cult of Films. I'm John, the host, and today, for the very first time, we have our new employee. That's right, we have zoologist of the Creature Features, Mr. Geoffrey Palmer. Thanks for coming on, sir.
John, thank you so much for scraping me into a little petri dish and bringing me back to your lab to be on these crazy things. I'm so excited to bring my unique love of the creature feature genre to your wonderful cast here, and I think we're going to get into a lot of fun.
Oh, perfect. Yeah, can we say what kind of protein was scraped off the leaf to make a Geoffrey Palmer, or is that for later?
It was a mix of, the proteins and the, oh my goodness, the science was just beyond human comprehension. Broke all the computers. We're still catching up to the technology needed even determine.
That's right. So I decided to bring a specialist on because I think we've had a lack of creature features on this very show, and so
just shameful.
Exactly. And you enlightened me that how shameful that was. So I brought a true professional in here. Before we get into our drinks and about the movie that we're talking about, what is your love of the creature in these films?
I could spend a whole hour and I could forget you're here and just start talking to myself and going through about why I love horror movies in general. But the big picture idea is, of all the emotions that we as humans experience, I think, you can disagree, but I think fear is the one we least experience. Now, some people experience it on, differently day to day, but we kind of lost touch a little bit. The fight or flight response, getting revved up, you feel alive when you're scared and all that type of stuff. There's obviously, it's a huge genre, the horror genre within itself. It's probably, arguably the most diverse because there's so many different ways you can approach it with creatures or psychological to very straightforward. Lots of ways to approach it. What I love about the creature features subgenre specifically is that what they're doing with the horror, with the idea of horror, is they're taking a fear and kind of personifying it and taking it and making it anthropomorphic. So something that we can actually see, and it speaks to a visceral feeling of something that's coming at us, stalking us. We see it in different ways. You might have a monster, but the actual creature itself it's a special territory. They get to explore things, I feel, that are set apart from the rest of horror movies. And if it's done right, it's amazing. And if it's done wrong, then it's on Sci-Fi, at 8 p.m. and there's 50 million of them. But it's one of those weird subgenres where it's like you have the widest possible spectrum for this. You could make the absolute worst with the lowest effort, and then you could really put in the effort and make it great and amazing and last forever. So, I'm just totally enamored of it, and I'm excited to talk about it.
Absolutely. And there's a huge subsection of myself and my co-host on another show, Jason, during the David Lynch episode that we just did, talking about the difference between horror and terror. And I think that's good. This film itself does both very well, and I think that's what sets this apart from its peers, where, horror is the apprehension of oneself, where it's just like, oh my god, is something gonna happen? It's seeing, Jaws in the water but not seeing him. Terror is when someone just jumps out and says boo, and it's like fight and flight, and it's that rush of adrenaline. So this film in The Relic is something that did both very well, which is a very rare thing as far as especially mid-90s horror goes. Before we get too far into it, I do want to introduce our drinks. Do you have a Relic-themed beverage with you today?
Well, I have a drink, and we'll figure out a way to make it a Relic. I have an old-fashioned,
nice.
My absolute favorite drink of choice. I'd like to think I make a pretty half-decent one. Perfect. And so 1997, that's hard to say it's old-fashioned, but it's been a while, John. I don't know how old you are, but I'm that's pretty old. That was a ways back. So we'll call it old-fashioned, in honor of the 90s. Remember the 90s? God, when life made sense.
I miss the 90s.
The 90s, where just, I had my Walkman CD stuffed into my pocket, sort of, and life was good then.
Life was, an old-fashioned, or some might say a relic, another name for an old-fashioned. So we did it.
Is that true? Oh wow!
Sure, we're gonna say it's true. I have a pair. I have twins. I have a pair of Dead Guys. These are tall boys from Rogue Brewery. These are beers. These are 6.8%. Kind of a box style. If you've never had from Oregon, a Dead Guy ale. They're pretty well known.
Heard of Dead Guy ale?
Yeah. But this is on theme because one, it looks like the little statue. I think his name is John Whitney, the archaeologist. He finds, and correct me if I'm wrong, but also, there's a lot of dead guys in this film, so I'm going to force that in and make it work.
I love it. The relics, that absolutely works.
I'm going to drink to you, sir. I'm going to say L'chaim, and let's get this show started.
Let's go. Let's talk about The Relic.
So, when I asked you when we kind of threw this together last minute, we very quickly were just like, what do you want to talk about? Do we want to talk about cerebral horror, creature features, like you said? But then we both kind of settled and very enthusiastically on The Relic. As soon as you said The Relic, I was like, oh my God, we got to do The Relic. What is it about this film that really popped out to you when you saw it?
Well, it's so hard. Like, we were talking about a lot of 1997 when this film came out. There's so many good movies, and movies that I even like. I would say better than this movie. Like Starship Troopers came out this year. Titanic came out this year. So are you kidding me? The number of movies.
Yes. What's wrong with you? Just bring it up.
The Fifth Element. Event Horizon came out this year.
Right.
Like,
oh God,
what? We were spoiled. Dante's Peak. I'm just kidding. That did come out this year, but it wasn't as good.
I haven't drank enough for that. Yeah.
Oh my goodness, James Bond. Oh wow. But yeah, I just, for some reason, I love going back to this one, and I think it's a combination of the formula, of the watchability, of the kind of time capsule, of the transition between the special and visual effects that they do. Everything is kind of a 5 out of 10 across the board, and somehow that adds up to a 10 out of 10. And I'd love to be able to explain that better. Like the script is okay, the acting is okay, the effects are okay. It's just fun though. Whenever you put it on, it hooks you. Like it's one of those where if it's on, I'm just gonna sit and watch it all.
Ingredients make it a tasty stew, right?
Yeah, exactly. And they borrow from, so you mentioned Jaws, and that's the absolute perfect parallel. Now, I consider Jaws to be the absolute pinnacle of the creature feature genre, and one of the greatest horror movies ever made. There is no better creature feature than Jaws. That's it. That's
full stop.
It defined the genre with Jaws, and everything that came after it is derivative in some way. We have to say. And one of the ways The Relic translates that is by not showing the creature. And whether it was a budget thing or whether it was just the way they wrote the script, I know that it had to be in the back of their mind. Show little bits, show pieces, that's like the barrels bobbing up and everything. You actually don't see, I was watching it just today, you don't even see the creature in full view until almost the last 30 minutes of the movie. It's about an hour, 40-minute movie. So over an hour without any idea, with just Tom Sizemore's face really to carry us along, which is enough. I mean,
It's enough. It's totally
it's
enough.
just hook Shan. Yeah, it's just something. Yeah, the monster's not a letdown. I mean, let's be honest. The monster is awesome. Cthulhu. I was trying to figure out how to spell it or pronounce it.
It's like an old car horn. Cthulhu. Yeah.
Cthulhu. Yeah. What about you? What drew you into it?
Well,
I mean,
I was gonna say, to understand where this film came from, we have to start with the director and Peter Hyams. Peter Hyams is the same filmmaker that brought you like Time Cop and all these like Jean-Claude Van Damme punch you in the face films, but he always wanted to do a horror film. And so this spawned from like a dream that he had of being a child stuck in a museum. And of course, this is an adaptation, right? Where it was like Kathleen Kennedy of Star Wars fame was actually one of the writers on this.
Okay.
And even puts that in the film where there's the scene where there's the two children that are like that stay in the museum after it's closed, and then they have that run-in with the monster. Did this so well, and I think this is a perfect homage to a Jaws. And also to Alien. He even does the whole like wet chain scene. Everything is very kind of tactile in this. And that's what works so well because like you said, the actual creature kicks ass. Like it looks like it is ready for a close-up. Autonomy and the design of this thing is so cool. It looks like a saber-toothed tiger mixed with a lizard thing. And but it has that like kind of a human facial expressions, which is kind of ties into the story, which I think they nailed. Do we get to see too much of it? I think so, a little bit. When it's full body CG in the light. Do the effects hold up? Okay, not so much.
Okay.
But however, this movie is so dark in tone and in actual lighting that
it's dark. Yeah.
You can't see a thing, which is so cool though. Like that was one of the big detracting things about this. Everyone's like, "Well, I couldn't see anything," but you can. Like, don't be a dick. You can see things.
You can see it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Turn the lights out. Watch the movie.
Exactly.
Yeah, put your phone down.
Exactly. Watching them, this was made for the theater. This was made to be in a dark room with a group of people. Let's talk about the cast, because we don't get to see Tom Sizemore in a leading man role.
And not only Tom, we got 90s Tom Sizemore, where he's got things going on that aren't great. He's up to no good. He's Hollywood bad boy Tom Sizemore. That's how cute the 90s was. Remember when you could just, Hollywood bad boy could be somebody like Tom Sizemore. I don't even think you could be a Hollywood bad boy anymore. I think that's just dead. Like, if you're a bad boy, they stop hiring you and you go away.
You just turn into Mickey Rourke eventually.
You just turn into Mickey Rourke. Yeah. So Tom Sizemore, he is, as a leading man, I love him. I absolutely think he holds it all together. They throw so much okay writing at him, and I'm saying okay because I love this movie. They throw so many plot points. So the movie starts with Tom coming out, and he's got his ex-wife that he's just lost custody of his dog.
Right.
And this is never really paid off or referenced again throughout the whole setup where Sizemore just has to kind of carry the plot. None of it's paid off again. He mentions like he's lost custody of his dog. You would think at the end of the movie like he'd come out and like there would be his ex-wife and she'd go, "Okay, sure. You survived. You have the dog." Or something. No, they just. Somebody in the writing room, there are 4 people who wrote this movie, by the way.
Right.
Somebody goes, what if he lost his dog? That's something to talk about. So he carries it.
Well, here's the thing, is this like, I thought they were going to tie that in with the police dogs, because one gets just like brutally destroyed. I think that was like an homage to like John Carpenter's The Thing almost level, where it just looks so disgusting. This dog looked like it was in a blender, but the other dog, like, he kind of saves, right? And then it kind of like runs away. And I thought we were going to get the throwaway line at the end where they walked out of the building and he's just like, "Hey, boy, I guess I don't miss my old dog anymore." Like in the best Tom Sizemore. And we were all going to be happy because he has a new dog. But they didn't do it. That was the biggest letdown of this film.
Yeah. Yeah, there's a couple of silly things. And then, then we move along and meet Penelope Ann Miller, who is really something.
This movie was good in spite of its actors, I think.
Yeah.
Because I think the only strong performance was from Sizemore.
Mm-hmm. I'd have to agree. James Whitmore, he's an old guy, and he makes it work just in spite of just how cute he is.
He's fantastic.
He's the inspiration for like the Toy Story old guy, you know, and so cute.
Oh my God, he does look like him.
You just kind of want to pinch his cheeks and go, oh, he's talking science, and so it's fine. None of it makes any sense, but it's fine.
I love him because he was basically the same character and everything. He was in a lot of Frank Darabont films. He was in Shawshank Redemption, and he was in The Majestic. Yes. And he
actor.
He was a fantastic actor, and he did do good work. I mean, as well work as he did in anything else. So he was great. The other person I want to talk about, which probably this is going to be a deep cut, but Clayton Reuter, Sergeant Hollingsworth, he was one of the stars of my favorite '80s films of all time, called One of the Guys. It had like Sherilyn Fenn from Twin Peaks fame.
One of the Guys.
Oh my God! It was one of those. It was like high school girl was trying to go undercover because she wanted to be a sports writer, and so she's like, I'm gonna dress like a dude so I could go into the locker rooms and get the real interviews. And he was like the boyfriend, and oh my God, so I saw him in this. I'm like, oh my God, where do I know him from? Because I thought it was like Tobias Beecher from Oz for a little bit, but I'm like, no, that's freaking the dude from. Anyways,
the thing from the dude, yeah.
What a rant, right? But I mean, I was so happy to see him. I don't think he's done any work since, but
no.
For the most part, you know, like you said, it was okay writing. Like I'm still confused how the boat from Brazil docked in Chicago.
They don't explain it. They say it was floating. I was wondering about this myself. It's floating in the Great Lakes. I think it was Lake Michigan or something. How
from Brazil? I just didn't get it.
It airdropped. Yeah, that it opens with that just not being explained at all. Like the cops come to investigate. Okay, we're cool. But yeah, they just sprash past that one, and you go, okay, yeah, I guess. Here we go.
Because like later on, he gives the old guy gives a little exposition where he's like, oh well, you know, it wasn't that didn't get on, so this crate was airdrop. But it's just like, but that Brazilian boat still wound up on there at where, you know, Sizemore and Hollingsworth went over and found all the bodies. So I'm like, yeah. But okay, we'll give it a pass, right? We'll give it
a pass. Yeah. The setup, it's really strange. Like they start off, we've got all these people that appear to have been eaten, partially masticated, but then supposedly the creature isn't in the boxes, or it doesn't become fully the creature until later. Like maybe it is in the box, but then it becomes bigger. So how did it eat all the people and then not be the creature and then become the creature? So
there's a few plot holes. There's a few plot holes.
You kind of got to start it up and then just kind of don't watch too closely until they get to the museum. Right. and then you get, okay, here we go. And the creature's in the museum, then we're going to start paying attention.
Right, yeah. When one of the beetles kind of eats the leaf and becomes that giant beetle from Cronenberg's Naked Lunch. I wanted him to talk to her and like have a typewriter on his back.
Woo! Yes, she needed to smash him with a typewriter. Yeah, exactly. That comes out of nowhere. And the other thing I like is, like, I mean, I know she's scared, but she's a scientist, and if she sees a brand new species, and she just goes, well, smash that. Right. You know, let's don't. Later, when she's faced with the actual creature, she's as cool as a cucumber. She's like, okay, I'm going to make a bomb. I'm going to do this to distract it. You know, she's like, I got it all figured out.
MacGyver.
Then there's a little bitty fly thing, and she's like, no! Smash it! Ah!
You know what, though? I would be totally on board. Like, bugs freak me out. Like, give me big lizard snake in my face that has 8 faces, but like a giant beetle, I would have done the same thing. And then shit myself.
Better. Yeah, I mean, I would have been eating, you know, my medulla. What are they eating in that? The hypothalamus?
Yeah, there you go.
Gone. The hypothalamus would have been 8. First one to go.
So this thing had a budget of $60 million, or according to IMDb and Wikipedia, or $40 million. So we're not sure. Yeah, but it only made, either way, it only made $48 million. So it either really lost its ass or like broke even, which still equates to losing your ass with
lost your ass. Big time. Yeah.
Why do you think this failed so hard?
Well, I look at one thing initially, and that is 1997. Sure. I mean, people were fucking spoiled. Like, off their ass in this year for stuff to watch. You could throw, obviously throw a stone and hit 5 movies that were amazing, and all this type of stuff. I don't know why it failed. I just think it didn't quite resonate on certain levels with people. I think it's one of those where it was destined to be a cult film from the moment it came out, and obviously they wanted it to be better. And this guy Himes, he had his big dreams, but I'm sorry, John, I know you like him. Not a very good director. Look at his list of movies. He goes on from here, people. I'm sorry to say, he goes on to direct A Sound of Thunder, which would have ended the career of Steven Spielberg. Nobody could survive that. You know what I mean? So just not the world's great. I mean, he's done some okay things up to this point. He does End of Days, right before this with Schwarzenegger. Fun movie, silly, effects driven.
I'm an End of Days apologist. I will die on that
that's
hill.
after this. Okay, actually, I'm looking at it backwards. But yeah, so they let him do a couple of things after this. But yeah, he didn't quite have the vision. I think the script didn't quite come together, and the execution wasn't quite there to really make it something that people were going to spread by word of mouth. You have to go see this in the theater, the way they did with the Jaws, or the way some of these other movies that could have been flops, but ended up being mega hits just because it's a creature film. But you got to go see it in the theaters.
This was the reason why he went into horror, like where he went into End of Days after this. And again, I think there is some really cheeseball parts of End of Days, but I think there are some really good parts of End of Days also. So I think that this was you can't look at the Relic and be like, he took scenes off, or like he half-assed this or he half-assed that. Like he even shot the film and then they played it for a test audience and no one clapped or screamed when she initially kills the monster, because I guess the original ending is she makes that little kind of Molotov cocktail or whatever, and then just pushes it in the creature's mouth, and that's when it explodes, and then she takes the elevator down. That's it. So no one reacted. So he's just no, I need 2 months more, and I need $60,000 more to get an inferno lizard.
With the fire effects of this time. Were rough. We were talking in the same territory as Spawn when they were trying these things. He wanted his Jaws moment. He wanted smile, you son of a bitch.
Right.
And she goes, what does she say? Something like you go to hell or something. Obviously he cared. This is going to sound pretentious as hell, but some directors, there's just as good a film as they can make is not going to be that amazing. I mean, it's just, it is, I am not a director. I know how hard it is. I know that there's a ton that goes into it, and somebody who hasn't done it should never speak about somebody who has. But we're going to sit here and be armchair critics, and I'm just saying, this guy, his vision and his ability to execute what he's seeing in his mind and putting it into the film, we love it. Now I can look back and say I love it, but I can sit and watch it and kind of enjoy it from the thing. If I came out of that theater and in 97, it's hard to know whether or not I would say, do you got to go see this? Because I did go see Starship Troopers in 1997 in theater, and I did come out of that and go, holy, you have to see this. This is the most amazing thing I've ever seen.
Yes.
For one thing, the effects of Starship Troopers are absolute. It was nominated for Academy Award. It's the gold standard when they started to get the mass swarming technology, and so you realize those two are completed in the same year, and you kind of go, oh, okay.
Well, and it had Verhoeven, right? This had Peter Hyams.
And it had Verhoeven. Yeah, exactly. That's actually a good parallel, because talk about a director who's able to take kind of a strange vision and execute it amazingly, probably to the best of anybody's ability. You wouldn't put a Verhoeven, somebody else in one of his movies, director's chair, and think it could come out as well as he could make them. Some of them are just, I think, amazing.
Tune in next week when Mr. Palmer and I talk about our next creature feature, Showgirls, directed by Paul Verhoeven.
Hey, John.
I think this is peak Peter Hyams. Like, am I going to recommend anyone go run out and see another Peter Hyams film? Probably not. But he was so unrelenting with his vision with this that he made everyone soaking wet just because it kind of looked cool. Tom Sizemore had like 2 flus. Peter Hyams himself was so sick that he had to take like a month off, and they had to push back production. And very easily he could have been like, okay, we're going to do a dry set, or we're going to do whatever. But he's like, no, this is in my head, and this is what I'm going to make, and be damned.
We're going to be wet.
And people gave him money. And, and like, good on him. That's great. Like, no one... Like, I won't say no one, but not a lot of people make these like, I'll call them like upscale horror films, because that's what this is. It's a horror film with a budget that
good budget.
Yeah, they get to do these kind of things and have the studio actually let them do it. So it's a rare thing, and it shows.
The reason is, so you're looking at the transition here. Jurassic Park came out in 1993. That signals death knell of the special effect, which is the practical. The creature is going to be built. We haven't talked about Stan Winston yet, which is just a crime. This is the guy who made every monster movie that we love, including the one in the Relic, and just absolutely knocked it out of the park with the creature design. But this is one of these rare transition films where we're half creature, guy in a suit, and we're half visual effect done in post production. So it's fascinating to watch, because now with ultra high definition televisions, you can obviously see all the close ups are practical, and all the wide shots are the visual effects. But nothing, and I will say this even to this day, I'll die on this hill. Nothing looks as good in close-up when you're wet as a practical effect.
Absolutely.
They're not there yet. I don't care how many, you can simulate the water, you can simulate, but like slime, and put Alien up.
I was just gonna say, that's why Alien is terrifying
almost
still.
Anything.
Yes.
And the grossness and the gushy and the stuff coming off your face. And when the creature comes in and roars, that's still scary to this day because of how good these practical effects are. And nothing, they have a ways to go. Even today, 2000, whatever it is. I've stopped calling it 2020. It's too depressing.
Yeah, but it is the end of days.
It's the end of days.
Yeah, no. And you're 100%. Just when you think you have enough KY, add 4 more gallons of it.
4 more, exactly. And just cover everyone and everything. So you can get it. Like, that's why he wanted everything to be wet. You can even watch when they click over to the visual effects, where it's like they had to re-add the water back in, because they were like, we can't be trying to do roto on water. So it's like, you can see the compositing if you have an eye for it. They shot it dry. Here's the creature. Add the then rain back in. They've set off the fire alarm is what happens, and add that back in. So it suddenly, the water has a very 2D look to it. You're meant to be looking at the creature, but it's kind of, if you have an eye for these things, you can kind of see it snap into different views there. But yeah, nothing beats it when they're in the close-ups and just the great Stan Winston roaring and gnashing of teeth and everything. I love it.
Set design, it's asking the audience a lot to be in a single location, but what better, more interesting single location can you get than a museum? And I think a
museum, yeah.
And the exhibit with the superstition. We didn't even talk about Tom Sizemore's little like character quirks, or he carries his bullet around, and he won't pick up a penny that's heads down and all this. I just feel like that was just kind of filler again, where you said before, where it was just like everything was just kind of okay, and that was just like, hey, we got to give him more lines. Well, he's superstitious, and it just so happens they have a superstition exhibit, so all that's like whatever. It's just icing and fluff, but the actual like set design, especially of that exhibit, the superstition exhibit, where you have all those umbrellas open and those broken mirrors, which sets up one of the best kills in the entire. Of course, the best kill in the entire film, I feel, is off camera, because it's literally, you see the monster's face in the broken mirrors, and then you see the flashlight drop, and it goes off, and I'm like, oh god, you fucking nailed that. They
did a flashlight drop, Alien, everything. The flashlight drop is just the classic clatters down, and then you see the foot or something go by.
Yeah. You got the SWAT team coming from the roof, and I'm like, oh my god, we're getting sci-fi here. We're getting sci-fi channel. That was the most eye-rolly part of the film to me, because it was just like, we're gonna show you everything. We're gonna show you this beast really go to work and decapitate, and like everything looks terrible. Like, I'm not even gonna say it doesn't.
Right. I do love when the creature leaps across the whole room and eats the guy right off of the.
Yeah.
That kind of kills some of the believability that anybody would be able to get away from it. Because like there's a couple of scenes where like she's just like run, and then like no, that thing just leapt across the entire museum and ate that guy. Okay. But I get what you're saying. That when they start to go full on the actual the CG model, it's rough. They go CG dude getting eaten, and it rips his head off, and it's very jarring. Switching over, but hey, 1997. I'm giving them a pass.
Sure,
it's
1997
fun.
horror, because we did have things like Titanic that came out the same year, and Jurassic Park that came out 5 years before that. So we'll say 1997 horror. But again, and you have to suspend a little bit of believability, because this particular museum had it was littered with Super Mario Brothers warp, like either flutes or those pipes, and the monster knew exactly where they were, because I mean he was in there killing those two guards in the control room, and the next moment he's killing the things in the main room.
He's got it figured out. Yeah,
everywhere. And I was like, while I was watching it and I was doing the rewatch, I'm like, wait, is there more than one? Are there a couple? Like, and that would have been cool.
You try to chart the path of the creature, you're going to go cross-eyed. Because none of it makes sense. Yeah, and none of their maneuvers make sense. Like, they're in the main exhibit, and then they decide to go into the bowel. Like, let's go into the darkest, single hallway, and go down one hallway where this creature could just run straight through us and be done, and then the water. It's very strange the some of the decisions that they made.
They went for it, right?
They did. They went for it.
So the Cthulhu itself, Geoffrey.
The
Cthulhu itself, because like I said, you are now the resident professional zoologist as far as the creature flicks go on the Cult of Films. On a scale of 0 to 5, and I want you to take everything into consideration. I want you to take in, practical effects and actual CG, lethality, intelligence, all these things, brutality. Take all these things in consideration, and on a scale of 0 to 5, and you could use decimals, what would you give the Cthulhu? Well, in the zeitgeist of horror, in
the zeitgeist of horror creaturdom, I just love it. It's so cool and badass. I'm gonna go 4 out of 5.
Wow.
I'm gonna dock a point because it dies real easily.
Right.
They just blow it up. But the idea that maybe if it had been allowed to keep going, it could have evolved even more and gotten wings and gotten bigger and gotten they set it up to where like this thing's just this roller coaster that's come off the tracks of evolution. So like anything that it comes into contact with, it just sort of absorbs the hormones. The science is 100% rock solid. Like if you open a textbook to page 100, it just the Cthulhu theorem is discussed, and you have to learn it in college. I'm certain of that.
100%.
But they set that up to be like, it could get bigger, it could get more exciting. So maybe it's inflated, maybe because I'm excited. It's my first one talking about a monster thing. But yeah, I love the Cthulhu. I love the way they did it. 4 out of 5. Absolutely.
That is amazing.
Awesome.
They could have played on that too. Maybe its final form would have just been like Donald Trump. Who knows? Yeah. Who knows what the end game was? It could have been a businessman towards the end of it.
Learns to speak, and then sort of, not really,
right?
Like mouth words, and
hasn't quite figured out what to do with the hands. But who knows? Who knows what?
I mean, as far as like absolute movie monsters, I mean, it's going to take me a while to form the Geoffrey Palmer guest of the show zeitgeist of horror movie monsters, and maybe I'll have to evaluate it as we go along. But like snapping it off initially in my mind, like Alien is a 5, that would be just the gold standard for the coolest thing ever
Sure.
thought of. Just a walking bondage sex monster alien that
So much KY.
adds acid for blood and amazing. The Thing, several versions of it, the absolute top. And then maybe like if we're gonna go look at a one, we'll look at like the laundry folding machine, the Mangler. That's a one. That's the worst monster ever made.
Perfect.
Yeah. So okay, we'll fill that out as we go. But yeah,
That's perfect. Yeah.
I love the Cthulhu. It was badass. Stan Winston he knows how to take our fears and just kind of put that extra oomph on it where it's something that you recognize. Like I see part of like a tiger or I see bits and pieces of things that I'm scared of, and then just take it up a notch, crank it up to 11.
Predator in there, right? Like
little predator, yeah. Just the way the jaws come open.
Yeah.
And again, it's not used as effectively as it could have been, but like there's that scene where like the tongue comes out and licks the. It's a visual effects tongue. So again, I sit there with my hat on and pick things apart. But so it's the practical monster opens the jaws, and then a VFX tongue. Because obviously, again, you need to go see the movie before you listen to this. It turns out to be a guy who's actually the monster who evolved from the basis, and the guy thinks that the girl is super hot. So he's gonna instead of immediately eating her hypothalamus, he's gonna give her a nice little monster lick.
Right. Yeah.
yeah. Remember that? What is up with the monsters and the licking? That's just. I could do without that trope.
It's that Hellraiser type of, sexy, like weird. But you know what? Like I love the juxtaposition where the monster, like you said, the monster has paws before just like eating her face to get that last like nasty pervy thing in. Yeah. Because the entire movie she's just talking about what a hack he is to everyone else. Like she's just like, he's.
Establish this John, the creature or the guy who was the basis for the monster, and that could have been such a payoff. Like, what if they had a relationship? Yeah. See, we could have just rewritten this movie. What if they had a failed, love, and then like there's movies where they do that, where like the guy turns horrifying, and then he's like, "Do you still love me?" And I'm a monster now, and
every Cronenberg film, sure.
Every Cronenberg film, yeah, exactly.
So that's a great segue to my next question. What do you think the legacy of the Relic is? And then also, would you like to see a reboot or a sequel to the Relic?
Okay, the legacy of the Relic is guys like you and me talking about it.
Yep.
And telling people to watch it. I mean, it doesn't go any further than that.
Totally fair.
It's never mentioned on anything as the greatest. If you search the most greatest creature feature movies, it'll be there, but it's going to be on page 2 or 3. So it's up to us as creature feature historians to spread the word that, look, it's not a perfect movie, but it's a fun movie, and you need to go see it and tell your friends and get together and pour some drinks like John and I have, and just watch it, because you're going to be entertained. It's right in that slipstream of the deep blue seas of, the movies that they're just so silly, but you just love it. You feel good if you're a horror fan. So the legacy is, I'll watch it 100 times again, and I'll enjoy it. And I'll tell people to watch it, and people will say, "Well, that was really shit, and I'm not listening to you on recommendations anymore," and I'll be okay with that. Yeah. So that's the legacy.
And then as far as a sequel goes, or a reboot,
no, don't touch it, because there's so many plot lines, and let's be honest, it's pulling from 15 different things.
Sure.
If we pull the wool off and take a look at what it's actually made up of, it's homage to so many movies that it just needs to be what it is. And we need to, and this is my challenge to all you creature feature makers out there, keep pushing forward. Let's don't keep retreading. This film is a perfect time capsule. We have Tom Sizemore in the 90s. We have so many things that just don't need to be messed with, that you would not be able to remake and to do any good. It's like RoboCop. They blew it when they tried to remake it, because there are so many things that just you can't touch from this time period. 90s Tom Sizemore. Verhoeven, yeah, we're going to go back to him a lot because what a genius. The technology, the transitional technology of the practical and the special effects. You would remake it, it would be all visual effects. It would probably, you couldn't make it better. That's what I'm saying. Like, if you tried to do a sequel, you couldn't really expand on it in any meaningful way. It would go the way of Tremors, an absolutely perfect film that should never have been added to or touched on, that was sequelified to death, that were all bad. It just didn't do a good job, because what they didn't realize that it wasn't about the monster. It was about the movie, and that's why, the monster is just a monster. It's whatever. Nobody. It's just another monster. This one doesn't stand out amongst like the aliens and all that type of stuff. But the movie itself is very fun and enjoyable. So leave it how it is.
I think I would recommend this film to people that, of course, are fans of the genre. If you're a fan of the genre, you've probably seen The Relic by now, and if you haven't,
you have to, because our people, we are the the 10:30 I gotta watch a creature movie or I'm gonna die Googlers, and then you go through. You've been through page 4 or 5 at this point, so you've probably seen it. But if you haven't, search it out. It's fun. It's so much fun.
I think it's just worth it enough for the diversity of the creature itself. It's an amalgamation, like you said, of a couple different creatures, but they make it its own thing in such a way where it is super interesting. And if you haven't seen this and you're gonna go watch it, don't be a dick and touch the contrast. Watch it as it's supposed to be. You're supposed to be, because that's the second monster of the film, is the darkness. It's on purpose that this film is as dark as it is. Don't be a dick and mess with the brightness. Like, just watch it. The very first outing of our resident zoologist for Creature Features, Mr. Geoffrey Palmer, knocked it out of the park. You could stay. I'm going to give you a raise right after this.
Amazing.
Look into this camera, sir. Tell everyone out there in the world where to find you and what you're up to.
Okay, cool. I am at Living Cards MTG on Twitter. Follow me up. I don't talk a lot about movies. I probably should, especially I'm going to get into this, do a little more. I'm a lover of film. I talk a lot about Magic the Gathering and fantasy and all that type of stuff, do animations and all of that, but my true love is the cine. So I'm so happy to come aboard.
Perfect. Well, thank you so much, sir. If you want to follow this very podcast, finally, I was held to the flame, and all of these shows are not only in this video format like you're enjoying now, but also on all your favorite podcasting sites like Spotify, iTunes, all those things. So go ahead, leave us apples and oranges, thumbs up, thumbs down, whatever your kink is. I don't judge. If you want to follow this show on Twitter, that would be fantastic as well. It is simply at The Cult of Films, all in lowercase. I made it very simple. Or you can follow me at Jon the Host. Until next time, Geoffrey Palmer, any cool Relic theme outage?
Yes. I want to share one scene from the film that'll just stick in your mind. Where you have to imagine 90s Tom Sizemore on the screen. There's a monster movie playing. There's supposed to be horror going on. We're supposed to be building dramatic tension. And the screenwriters decide to take a 2 to 3 minute moment to put in a backstory about a dud bullet that doesn't fire. And that's somehow the basis for all of his superstition. Right in the middle of the film. and at the end of the movie... rather than paying it off by having the bullet suddenly fire and that's what, shoots the monster dead and it wins the day, he just gives the girl the bullet and says, "You can keep it. Now I'm not superstitious anymore." That
she tucks it into her bra and movie.
Right there. And the sun comes up and We'll
see you next time.